So I got my shader back. When I was recording the last episode of Chopping Block, I forgot to mention very briefly how the custom blocks from expanding the end work. If you were previously a viewer of Dragon 14, then you will probably know they're infested stone. Now you're probably thinking, what about all the issues that Dragon had with their infested stone blocks? How are you going to circumvent those? It's easy, really. I'll just remove silverfish from the game. Is that drastic? Sure, yeah, maybe. Yeah, sure, maybe. But think about it. In a skyblock, how often are you gonna come across a silverfish? It's pretty much gonna be never. What about silverfish burrowing? Well, silverfish don't exist. If a silverfish tries to spawn, then it'll drop a rabbit hide. This is because I'm using silverfish spawn eggs as the furnace output for quick hide, which is a retexture of rabbit hide. And of course, we don't want the player being able to funnel out a spawn egg from the furnace and then be able to dispense it with a dispenser. So, silverfish just do that. Even if they have no NBT data, they just summon quick hide. Okay, well, what about the silverfish spawner in the stronghold? Well, I just set a silverfish spawner down. Let's see what happens. Oh, would you look at that? It became an endermite. This should just be a thing. While we're talking about expanding the end, I want to show you guys something that I did. I don't have fog on. So this is what the end looks like when you spawn in. The end portal isn't there. That appears when you kill the dragon. But when you spawn into the end, bridges will generate between all of the end crystals, which will allow you to fight the dragon a little bit easier. I wanted to keep the skyblock feel, but still give the player something to stand on. And I feel like this keeps the dragon fight challenging because you're still running around trying to break all the crystals and trying to fight the dragon. Plus, all the endermen spawn on these bridges. Bridges are also your source of end stone and end turf. This took me way too long to create. I tried to record me coding this on camera, but the footage got corrupted, so sadly, that does not exist. But I mean, look at these bridges. They're so neat. Well, on the topic of portals, this is not in the game. I did this with commands. You have to actually build a full-size end portal to get to the end. However, this is in the game. I added tiny nether portals because as difficult as chopping block is supposed to be, it takes so much time to make a full-size nether portal. I'm just gonna let the player cut that in half. Trading with piglins has the chance to give you a fortress compass, which allows you to find where a fortress is located. And there you go. As you can see, it is leading me to the fortress. For some reason, it always leads to a blaze spawner in the fortress. I'm not quite sure why. So with that nonsense out of the way, I want to talk about something that I touched on in my penguin video, which, by the way, thank you guys so much for the awesome reception to the penguin video. Lots of good discussion going on in the comments. Really proud of y'all for that one. I didn't expect it to do this well. So thank you to everyone who watched that video and to everyone who subscribed from that video and is now watching this one. Alright, continuing on. Something I talked about in that penguin video was depth versus complexity. And I want to go more into what depth and complexity are. Depth is a dimension of the game that adds consistency and completion, in my experience. Something that adds a lot of depth in the vanilla game is slime blocks. You'll have to forgive my shaders acting up. I don't know what's going on here. On the surface, slime blocks are an incredibly simple thing. They're blocks that are sticky and bouncy. It's not impossible to understand that sticky block sticks to blocks. And yet this simple mechanic allows for flying machines, automatic farms, walking robots, computers, machines that can count the distance of blocks that they have flown. You can do some incredibly smart and technical stuff with slime blocks. And all it is one block that was added in an update that was, compared to the updates of today, incredibly small. A module in Chopping Block that adds depth is magic machines. While the magic system that powers more powerful machines is an added layer of complexity, the early game machines add an incredible amount of depth. Before you build a block crusher, these are all the blocks that you have access to. Wood and its derivatives, and cobblestone and its derivatives. But once you build the block crusher, your palette expands just a little bit more. You can get gravel, you can get sand, you can get sandstone, and you can get concrete. Allows you to turn this simple palette of blocks into iron, copper, gold, bones, as well as more items than can fit in a barrel. The list is pretty exhaustive of things that you can get from sand sifting. The alchemy reactor allows you to turn the simple block palette you have into almost every naturally occurring block, with some exceptions being nether-based blocks, end-based blocks, prismarine blocks, coral blocks, suspicious blocks, amethyst, and a few ores. Just adding these 3 machines in this one item adds an incredible amount of depth to the game, especially a skyblock, by opening up the possibility to get almost any block in the game. Compare that to complexity, which is a dimension of the game that, in my experience, adds difficulty and a sense of progression. An example of complexity that I like in Minecraft is the addition of honey blocks. Compared to slime blocks, the process of obtaining honey is significantly more complex. First, you have to find a beehive. Then you have to wait for the bees from that hive to go out and pollinate flowers, and when those bees return, they fill up the beehive with honey. Then you have to place a campfire under the beehive. Then you have to take a glass bottle and right-click on the hive, and you get a single honey bottle. You do that 4 more times, and then you get a block of honey. Compared to a slime block where you just go into a swamp and then kill a few slimes and then craft the slime into a slime block. And all of that for a pretty basic block. It's just slime block that slime doesn't stick to. There's a lot more complexity to obtaining a honey block than there is to obtaining a slime block. And that's why it kind of feels like an upgrade in survival mode when you finally get to use honey blocks in your slime block machines, is because that added complexity is a barrier for you to overcome to progress in your ability to create machines. A data pack that adds complexity to chopping block is small beginnings. In vanilla Minecraft, the process of getting iron is make a pickaxe, get some stone, make a stone pickaxe, get some iron, and then melt the iron. Maybe you're even able to find the iron in a village. But in chopping block, the process is to use magic machines to get gravel, and then sift that gravel for a chance of getting iron chunks. If you get 4 of those, then you can craft them into a raw piece of iron, which you can then smelt into iron. What about redstone? You go out into the caves, you find redstone, and you dig it up. In chopping block, you have to sift gravel to get a redstone ore chunk that you then smelt into redstone. Or you can get 4 of those redstone ore chunks, throw them into a compactor, and then get a block of redstone ore, which usually gives you more than 4 redstone dust. Here's a really fun one. In vanilla Minecraft, the way to get birchwood is to just go into a forest and get birchwood. To get birchwood in chopping block, you have to grow a tree, strip the bark from the logs, then use that mulch to compost into dirt, which you then have to sift for seeds, and then use seeds and bone meal to craft it into a grass block, which you then sift with a sand sifter for a chance of getting birch seeds, which you then plant and bone meal to get a birch tree. It is way more complex to get several wood types in chopping block than it is in survival, which is why it feels like a giant progression when you're able to get more than 1 wood type in your skyblock world. So what's better for a game? Depth or complexity? Should a game be more challenging, or should it have more depth so that more possibilities are open to the player? The answer is different for every game, but for a game like Minecraft, the conclusion that I've drawn is you need a balance of both concepts. If you saw my penguin video, though, you might be asking one of 2 questions right now. Bex, If complexity is necessary to maintain a balance in gameplay for Minecraft, then why are you complaining about it being added with the mob votes? And the answer is that complexity has to be consistent. The other question you might be asking is, if complexity is something that Minecraft already has enough of, which is something you alluded to in your penguin video, then why are you adding more of it to Chopping Block? And the answer for that comes in two parts. One is that Chopping Block is technically a mod. It's a mod made with data packs, but it's still a mod, and therefore doesn't have to follow, realistically, any of the rules in Minecraft game design. And secondly, not only do I need to add a way to obtain all of these items, I need to do so in a way that is both challenging in the early game to create a sense of progression, but not so challenging that it becomes a tedious task in the late game, which is why the magic machines can be automated. Right now, Chopping Block, I feel like, has plenty of complexity, but it needs a little more depth. Alright, so now here's a little more game design talk. I added this data pack called More Tools. It adds a hammer and a crook. The hammer is crafted like this, and it basically works as a block crusher, but just a tool that you can use. It has a few more applications than the block crusher, like you can get cracked bricks using it, and you can break prismarine back down into prismarine shards. That's been seen before, though. That's in a lot of mod packs. Let's check out the crook and what it does. The crook is used to harvest leaves, and let's compare the speed of the crook to an Instamine iron hoe. Pretty fast. The crook, yeah, it's a cool idea, but I really don't know how I feel about it. It, like, devastatingly doesn't fit into Minecraft, but at the same time, there's not really a better way to break leaves. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Bex, if mods can add it, and this is technically a mod, just made without Forge, then just add it anyway, because you don't have to follow Minecraft's design rules. Well, the problem there is I kinda have been this whole time. This is a PDF of Minecraft game design, a book about Minecraft's game design. All this is a book of principles and rules for designing vanilla Minecraft. The whole book is worth reading, but I just want to highlight a few pages. Firstly, this one block at a time. This is the design rule that the crook breaks that I'm extremely uncomfortable with breaking. A core part of Minecraft is that you mine one block at a time, you place one block at a time. Yeah, like pistons can push up to 12 blocks and TNT can blow up a bunch of blocks, but all that starts with a single interaction. The player flips one lever, pushes one button, ignites one flint and steel. And the crook doesn't follow that. The crook allows the player to break a lot of blocks all at once. On one hand, I'm technically making a mod, so I don't have to adhere to Minecraft's vanilla game design rules. But on the other hand, I have been this whole time. The mod maybe isn't vanilla style, but it uses the same design rules that regular vanilla uses. And so deviating from that would be incredibly jarring. And I don't know if that's worth it. It's another Copper Tools situation. It's another Copper Tools situation. Isn't that fun? Yeah, guys, remember Copper Tools when I made a whole big fuss about how the Copper Tools were a nightmare for game design? And then everyone was like, actually, it's not that big of a nightmare for game design. You can just deal with it. Is this another one of those situations? It probably is. The problem is, if I keep it in now and release Chopping Block and then later decide I want to remove it, I can't remove it. At the same time, I can't exactly remove one of the two tools that More Tools adds. I don't know. Tell me down in the comments, I guess. Is the inconsistency worth the convenience of breaking leaves? Alright, that's the question. I don't know how to end this video, so I'm just gonna end it. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing if you want to see more, and leave a like if you enjoyed. That's it. I'm out. Goodbye.